Stacy Hall.
And I'm Kathy Unionheim. We made this videotape of the Reading Mastery 3 program so that you would have an opportunity to get to know the Reading Mastery 3 program and become an effective Reading Mastery 3 teacher.
We'd like to give you a basic understanding of the Reading Mastery 3 program, which includes the skills that are embedded in the program to teach each of the students, the parts of each of the reading lessons that are within the whole program, and a rationale for the program components as you work with them, and the techniques to use.
We're also going to give you an opportunity to see each of the parts of the lesson being taught, and we'll be demonstrating that throughout this video.
We're also going to provide a discussion of each of the components, the presentation skills that teachers need to use, techniques for working with children who may make errors as they're working in the program, and strategies that the children will learn to become better leaders.
We're also going to give you lots of practice at doing the different formats within the program, and we're going to stop and have you practice these things too. We're going to show you these things as we practice throughout, and to do this you're going to need one of the things from your kit, and that's the Reading Mastery 3 Teacher's Guide. So if you don't already have the Reading Mastery 3 Teacher's Guide in front of you, stop the videotape and get that now.
The Reading Mastery 3 program is quite unique, as is the entire Reading Mastery series. For example, it's been proven for success with a number of different types of children, not only the general education students, but students with diversity, such as students with disability, students for whom English is not their primary language, students with language problems as well.
One of the things that makes this successful with diverse learners is that there's no assumption that the students come in having the background knowledge for whatever particular task they're engaged in. All the skills in the program are directly taught by the teacher, practiced by the students, and reviewed again and again so that students can acquire those skills.
The skills are reviewed in multiple contexts as well. So the students aren't just reviewing a fact, for example, again and again and again, but that fact will build up into real relationships that the students work on, across different stories that they have, from their stories to their workbooks and their independent work.
Another unique feature is the integration of content area skills in science and social studies in the Reading Mastery 3 program. Students are exposed to mapping concepts in science that they will typically be taught in third grade, and those skills are integrated within the reading program, both in comprehension activities, skill book activities, so that it's strengthening students' skills in other academic areas as well.
Finally, the language of instruction in the Reading Mastery 3 series is controlled. What we want to do is to ensure that the language that gets to the students is consistent and very meaningful, so the presentations are working very hard on the skills that the students need.
Your teacher's guide will serve as your training manual during this video series. It provides program rationale, important sample exercises, specific information on how to present the exercises, and correct predictable student errors. It also includes procedures for placement, grouping, and scheduling. In addition, the guide includes a scope and sequence chart, behavioral objectives, a template for skills profile folder, and a vocabulary list which tells the lesson number on which each word in the program first appears. Your teacher's guide can be an invaluable quick reference. The Reading Mastery 3 books that all instructors need to use to teach each of the 140 lessons are the 2 teacher presentation books that specify every lesson's activities, including how to correct errors. Just as in the first 2 levels of Reading Mastery, each teacher presentation book contains scripted lessons. Scripts indicate exactly what you do in black italics and what you are to say in colored print. They also indicate correct student responses in bold type. The script wording is designed to be concise, consistent, simple, and clear. Every activity and every exercise is planned to be functional and serve a purpose in moving students from teacher-directed instruction to independent application. Each lesson includes many exercises. Each exercise includes a series of instructional steps to teach a particular skill or strategy. These exercises or formats appear for each lesson. What the teacher does and says remains the same, consistent. The only difference is the examples presented in the exercise. Later formats usually build on what was presented in earlier formats. There are 2 storybooks in the Reading Mastery 3 program. If possible, every student should have these storybooks. However, minimally, you will need to have enough storybooks for each child in your largest instructional group, plus a few extra. For every student in Reading Mastery 3, you will need to have 2 consumable workbooks. The Reading Mastery 3 program is organized into carefully sequenced, scripted daily lessons that begin with about 35 minutes of teacher-directed work. First are the word attack exercises, which take approximately 10 minutes to complete. During these exercises, you present decoding and vocabulary building strategies with words that will appear in the stories and independent workbook exercises. Next, in mini lessons, you direct students through a comprehension passage which introduces concepts that will appear in the story. You also direct students through oral reading on the main story and ask comprehension questions indicated in the script. The comprehension passage and main story reading will take approximately 25 minutes to complete. Following the story reading, students will do their independent workbook exercises, which contain the application of the concepts and strategies they have learned from the word attack, comprehension passage, and main story reading. Allow approximately 25 minutes for students to do this work. After students have completed workbook exercise, you will conduct a work check. This activity takes approximately 10 minutes. Every 5 lessons, another activity is included as part of the lesson. This is an individual checkout for rate and accuracy. In these checkouts, children read individually to the teacher. On lessons with checkouts, the comprehension passage and story are shorter, so you can complete the teacher-directed part of the lesson and also do checkouts. Another kind of activity that is included in the program every 10 lessons is a fact game. You may schedule these games during the regular period or at some other time in the day. These are game-like activities in which critical concepts are reviewed. Each game takes about 25 minutes to play and provides review and practice for concept application. Reading instruction should be scheduled on every available school day. Remember, allow at least 35 minutes for the teacher-directed work for each instructional group. This period should be the same time every day. The independent work does not necessarily need to be scheduled immediately after the teacher-directed activities, but may occur later in the school day. Ideally, while you are teaching one reading group, children from the other instructional groups need to be engaged at completing their independent work. Work checks may be done immediately after students complete their work or later in the day. However, they must be scheduled to occur before students go on to the next lesson. Your goal for your reading group is to complete a lesson each day. Occasionally, you will find that you will not be able to complete an entire lesson during the instructional period. When the choice is between teaching to mastery and completing the lesson, choose the teaching to mastery. Try to schedule extra time later in the day to finish the lesson. If you have no time during a particular day to complete the lesson, complete it the next instructional day and then begin the next lesson, if you have enough time during the same period. Some students may require more practice to develop acceptable accuracy and fluency levels. Schedule extra practice for these students. They can reread earlier stories to a parent or another child. Finally, be prepared to establish motivational systems and record the performance of students on reading the stories. Show the children that you value accurate reading. Read more about motivation and point systems on pages 18 and 19 of your teacher's guide. Before you start teaching your students, you will need to determine the initial placement into the appropriate level of the Reading Mastery series. Reading Mastery 3 was designed for students who read at about the 3rd grade level. The program can be introduced following the student's successful completion of any second-level reading program, whether the students are 2nd graders, 4th graders, or possibly remedial 7th graders. However, if students cannot read aloud with 2 errors or less per 100 words read, or if students read very slowly, they may not be able to enter Reading Mastery 3. On page 50 of your teacher's guide, you will find the placement test. Pages 48 and 49 provide you with the directions for administering the test, placement criteria, and remedies. Find and read the placement information on those pages. Four transition lessons labeled A, B, C, and D precede Lesson 1. These transition lessons are appropriate for students who are somewhat weak in decoding and comprehension skills. Read more about the transition lessons on page 4 of your teacher's guide. After you have placement test results for all of your students, place them in instructional groups according to their performance on the placement tests. Homogeneous grouping is necessary so that you can enable all children to progress at optimal rates while providing a successful learning experience. To achieve appropriate homogeneous grouping, cross-class and cross-grade grouping may be needed. Ideally, you should have no more than 2 instructional groups. The group with the higher performers may contain up to 15 students. The group with lower performers might contain up to 10 students. After testing, teachers should meet to discuss their grouping. If someone has too many different placements, switching children to different classes should be considered. Grouping should remain flexible throughout the year based on students' performance. To use the available instructional time efficiently and effectively, you will use techniques that will help you keep your students engaged. This video provides training in those techniques. They include following the scripted presentations and bringing them to life with rapid pacing and natural emphasis on key words, using signals to cue students when to answer so each is able to initiate responses, and monitoring students' responses closely so that appropriate feedback may be provided, reinforcement or corrections. Read more about these techniques on pages 17 and 18 of your teacher's guide. One of the techniques you will use when presenting an exercise to students is to use a signal to cue them when to respond. Signaling has several purposes. Signals allow the teacher, rather than the students, to control the pacing of the presentation. The teacher determines how fast to move through the exercises depending on how much time the children need to think before they respond. So the signaling technique makes it more likely that children will initiate their own responses to instruction instead of just copying the responses of the other children in the group. An effective signaling procedure has 3 parts: focus, verbal cue, and hand signal. First, you focus the student's attention. If your students are supposed to be looking at you while you ask a question, you have them focus by holding out your hand, like a traffic cop. If the group is supposed to be reading their storybooks or workbooks, you tell them to touch under what they're going to read. In either case, you allow students enough time to think of the appropriate response before you require them to respond. After you have paused for thinking, then you give a verbal cue. In this program, the verbal cue to answer a question is, "Get ready." The verbal cue to say a word is, "What word?" If the students are looking at you, your hand signal is visual. You move your hand. If students are touching their storybooks, your hand signal is auditory, a snap, clap, or tap. The order of the signaling procedure is always the same. First the focus, then the verbal cue, and then the hand signal. Watch and respond on my signal. Everybody, which direction is Canada from the United States? Get ready.
North.
How did you do responding to my visual cue? Let's try an auditory cue next. Touch the next word. What word?
Hammered.
Hammered. Notice that the timing was consistent between the verbal cue and the hand signal. Now we will start your training on these and other DI techniques. On page 20 of your teacher's guide is a sample from lesson 85 of the word attack section of the lesson. Your lesson will always start with the word attack words, where you'll have students decode each of these words, and they'll practice these to mastery before they have to read them in their stories. The word attack is set up in columns of words. The words in the first column are new words that you will be introducing and teaching to the students. The words in the other columns, in this case, columns 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, are words that students have already been introduced to, or are review words or words that the students will be able to decode on their own. The last column, vocabulary words, is a column of words where the students will read the words, and then you will be working with vocabulary meanings, teaching them what those words mean.
All the words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. First word. What word?
Peanuts.
Good, waiting for me. Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. What word?
Blindfold.
Next word. What word?
Playground.
You guys are awesome. Column 3, first word. What word?
Quietly.
Next word. What word?
Brief.
Next word. What word?
Saw.
Next. What word?
Hose.
Next. What word?
Hammer.
Yes, column 4, first word. What's that name? Get ready.
Bertha.
Next. What word?
Track.
Next. What word?
Tracker.
Next. What word?
Cell.
Right on, column 5. Go touching under the words. What word?
Wing.
Next. What word?
Amaze.
Next. What word?
Amazement.
Next. What word?
Lemon.
Next. What word?
Blink.
Yes, good watching those endings. Column 6. What word?
Sunny.
Next. What word?
Lazy.
Next. What word?
Lazier.
Next. What word?
Normal.
Next. What word?
Normally.
Good reading. Let's do column 7.
Here are critical teaching behaviors specifically related to presenting word attack exercises. Always start by giving the instructions to students using the wording specified in the script. This clear wording directs the students to touch the appropriate column and appropriate word in the column. Immediately after you give that kind of instruction, the script says, wait, or check, or pause. This means you look at the student's fingers to make sure they are touching under the correct word and to make sure they have time to figure it out. So you always pause and monitor before you say the verbal cue, what word, and signal. Watch as I follow the script and monitor during step 1 of exercise 2. Everybody touch column 2. All the words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. Touch under the first word. Let's practice that together using those techniques of following the script and monitoring students. You're on exercise 2, don't forget, on page 20 of your teacher's guide. We're going to be teaching step 1, where it says everybody touch column 2, all the way through where it says touch under the first word. You're going to be the teacher along with me, so get ready to say those words when I count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Everybody touch column 2. Are you checking your students that they're touching the column? All the words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. Touch under the first word. Are you pausing so students have think time? Even though you must monitor your students, you want to maintain a rapid pace to maintain student attention and maintain the momentum of your lesson. Let's practice that again with exercise 2. You're going to say these words, but this time I'm not going to prompt you. You still need to stop and monitor your students and give them the pause for some think time. When I say 3, we're going to begin with step 1. 1, 2, 3. Everybody touch column 2. The words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. Touch under the first word. How did you do that time? Now we're going to practice giving the verbal cue and signaling together. Remember, when students have to look at the words in their own material, your signal needs to be auditory. A snap, clap, or tap. I'll demonstrate using the verbal cue and hand signal. What word? Notice the signal always comes a moment after the verbal cue. Here's the wrong way. What word? I signaled at the same time I was talking. Remember, never talk and signal at the same time. Here's another wrong way to signal. What word? I paused too long after what word. That would make it difficult for students to know when to respond. Here's the right way again. What word? Let's practice the timing of the signal together. I'll snap with one hand and keep my place on the script with the other, but you can clap or tap if you wish. On the count of 3, we'll say, what word, and signal. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. What word? Again. 1, 2, 3. What word? One more time. 1, 2, 3. What word? Now watch as I present the whole exercise. You'll hear one person being the student. Everybody, touch column 2. All the words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. Touch under the first word. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. What word?
Blindfold.
Next word. What word?
Playground.
Good job. Now let's practice teaching that whole exercise together. Remember, you're on page 20 of the teacher's guide. On the screen, you will see the student on their page and their textbook. Remember, you need to pause a second after you have said next word and before you say what word and signal. See if you can stay with me throughout the demonstration. We're going to start teaching on 3. 1, 2, 3. Everybody, touch column 2. All the words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. Touch under the first word. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. What word?
Blindfold.
Next word. What word?
Playground.
Good job. Now I'm going to show you how to teach columns 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to be using exercise 2 and 3 from your teacher's guide on page 20. Follow along, and if you want to, see if you can practice with me. I'm starting on exercise 2. Everybody, touch column 2. All the words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. Touch under the first word. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. What word?
Blindfold.
Next word. What word?
Playground.
Nice job. Everybody touch under the first word in column 3. What word?
Quietly.
Next word. What word?
Greeks.
Next word. What word?
Sod.
Next word. What word?
Coast.
Next word. What word?
Hammers.
Super job. Everybody touch under the first word in column 4. What word?
Bertha.
Next word. What word?
Track.
Next word. What word?
Trackers.
Next word. What word?
Sailed.
Nice job. Now practice teaching columns 2, 3, and 4 in pairs. You'll be using exercise 2 and 3 from your teacher's guide in presenting these columns. Be sure you pause a second after you say next word. Then crisply say what word and signal. As soon as you finish presenting one column of words, have the students move quickly to the next column. When you're acting as the student, don't make any errors. Give feedback to your partner as you practice. Both of you should get a chance to be teacher. During the first few days of instruction, your students may not behave or respond the way you want them to. They might not answer on signal or respond crisply. You will want to correct this kind of responding. Watch me as I demonstrate this. Everybody, touch the first word in column 2. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
However. Say it that way. What word?
However.
However. Good job. Let's go back up to the top. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Good. Next word. What word?
Blindfold.
Listen again. Blindfold. What word?
Blindfold.
Good. Let's go back to the top and see if you can respond crisply and be ready for my signal. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Better. Good job. Next word. What word?
Blindfold.
Next word. What word?
Playground.
Playground. Good. That was much better that time. Notice that I modified the introductory sentence of the format into a specific expectation for performance. If your students don't answer crisply, that is, they say the correct word but drag it out, you change their behavior by stating specifically what you want, then quickly correct. Tell the word, ask the word, Then, start over. Praise specifically improved performance. As with any interaction with students, maintain a brisk pace. Leave no time for inattentive or off-task behaviors. When used appropriately, you'll find these effective motivation procedures will allow you and your students to have fun as you integrate your own unique personality with direct instruction formats. Now practice how you would get crisp responses. When you're acting as a student, hesitate or drag out several responses, but don't say the wrong word.
Everybody find part A in your textbook. Touch column 1. Everybody, when we do word attack, remember to follow along with your finger and touch under every word. First word. That word is student. What word?
Student.
Spell student. Get ready.
S-T-U-D-E-N-T.
What word did you spell?
Student.
Next word. Donkey. What word?
Donkey.
Spell donkey. Get ready.
D-O-N-K-E-Y.
What word was that?
Donkey.
Next word. Directly. What word?
Directly.
Spell directly. Get ready.
D-I-R-E-C-T-L-Y.
What word was that?
Directly.
Good job. Next word. Talent. What word?
Talent.
Spell talent. Get ready.
T-A-L-E-N-T.
What word was that?
Talent.
Excellent spelling. Go up to the top now and see if you can do them. All the words. Remember them. First word. Good touching. What word?
Student.
Next word.
Donkey.
Wait for me. What word?
Donkey.
Let's start that column again. First word. What word?
Student.
Next word. What word?
Donkey.
Next word. What word?
Directly.
Next word. What word?
Talent.
Absolutely perfect. Go to column 2.
What the teacher script does for the first column is identifies the new word for the students. The teacher actually models the word. Then the students will spell the word, and they repeat and practice those words.
The reason the students are spelling the words is not so that they'll learn how to spell those words. These are brand new words for the students to learn. And by spelling them, they must look closely at the word and identify the letters that are in the word. In doing this format also, you'll notice that the teacher is saying the word several times, the students are repeating the word several times, so the chances that they will learn these new words the first time around is pretty good.
Now what we would like to do is to practice this exercise together. I'd like all of you to practice being teacher with me. I'll be the teacher, and Kathy will be the student. So you are going to be saying the words that I say that are written in the format on page 20 in your teacher's guide. We'll begin with exercise 1. We're going to be doing, exercise 1. We'll begin with number 1 and go all the way through. So read those directions with me. This is an opportunity for you to practice those signals that we worked on earlier.
So make sure you get that hand up there.
That's right. And make it very clear for the students that you're working with. Kathy, here we go. Starting at number 1. Get ready? Everybody, find part A in your textbook. Let's see if she's there. Great. Touch column 1. She's there. The words in column 1 are hard words that will be in your reading stories. Touch under the first word. There she is. The first word is student. What word?
Student.
Spell student. Get ready.
S-T-U-D-E-N-T.
What word did you spell?
Student.
Good. Next word. That word is donkey. What word?
Donkey.
Spell donkey. Get ready.
D-O-N-K-E-Y.
What word did you spell?
Donkey.
Excellent. Next word. That word is directly. What word?
Directly.
Spell directly. Get ready.
D-I-R-E-C-T-L-Y.
What word did you spell?
Directly.
Last word. That word is talent. What word?
Talent.
Spell talent. Get ready.
T-A-L-E-N-T.
What word did you spell?
Talent.
Excellent. Now we are at step 5 in the exercises. Everybody see where we are? Let's teach. Get ready? Now let's see if you remember all those words. Touch under the first word in column 1. What word?
Student.
Next word. What word?
Donkey.
Good. Next word. What word?
Directly.
Next word. What word?
Talent.
Excellent. You read all those words without any mistakes. Nice job. Now, one of the things that's very important when you're practicing being teacher is that you say the words that are in the script for the teacher. Don't practice being the student. It's real easy to get into practice of answering for the student, too. And what you can teach your children is to watch you to get the answer instead of paying attention to the words in the textbook. Doing this together is kind of a difficult thing. I would recommend that you stop and practice and do this on your own. Go through exercise 1 without any mistakes.
Okay, everybody, we're ready for column 2. First word. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. What word?
Billfold.
That word is blindfold. What word, everybody?
Blindfold.
Blindfold. What word is that?
Blindfold.
Spell blindfold. Get ready.
Blindfold.
What word did you spell?
Blindfold.
Let's try that again. Up to the top of column 2. First word. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. Be careful. What word?
Blindfold.
Next word. What word?
Playground.
Awesome. You got them all right. Go to column 3.
If one or more students in a group say the wrong word, you'll tell the word, have the group say the word, then have them spell it, then ask, what word again? And finally return to the beginning of the list. That correction is almost the same as the new words format you just practiced. I'll demonstrate the correction and firming the group on the list. Everybody touch column 2. All the words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. Touch under the first word. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. What word?
Billfold.
Blindfold. What word?
Blindfold.
Spell blindfold.
Blindfold.
What word did you spell?
Blindfold.
Yes, blindfold. Let's go up to the top again. First word. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. What word?
Blindfold.
Next word. What word?
Playground.
Nice job. Now let's practice that correction together. We're going to be on exercise 2, and we'll start teaching. Our student's going to make the same error on blindfold, and you're going to correct it with the spelling format, then go back up to the top, and you'll notice that I gave a little extra think time on that word. See if you can do that with me. We'll start teaching on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Everybody touch column 2. All the words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. Touch under the first word. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. What word?
Billfold.
Blindfold. What word?
Blindfold.
Spell blindfold.
Blindfold.
What word did you spell?
Blindfold.
Yes, blindfold. Let's go back up to the top again and touch the first word. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Next word. What word?
Blindfold.
Blindfold. Next word. What word?
Playground.
Good job. That's playground. Now let's practice in pairs, presenting exercise 2 and 3 for columns 2 to 4. The person acting as the student should make 1 error in each of those columns. Firming means that children are provided with adequate practice to retain the skills that they've been taught. We find that if a teacher provides sufficient repetitions to enable children to respond correctly to all the items in an exercise, the next day the number of repetitions they need to master a similar exercise will go down significantly. When you do firming, the children let you know how much practice they need on a skill to master it. For those of you working with low-performing students, you will find that it takes many repetitions. To keep those students attentive and motivated while providing these repetitions, remember, maintain a brisk pace and be positive and encouraging. The general format you use to teach to mastery is called the part firming paradigm. You teach to mastery the part where the error was made, then repeat the whole exercise. The first step in the part firming paradigm is to tell the answer. Then you repeat the task. You ask students to respond to the same task they originally missed. Then you repeat the part where the error occurred. Then go to the next part, repeat the exercise, and finally give individual turns. It is essential to set up instructions so that children know that responding correctly the first time is important. Responding correctly the first time demonstrates that students remember what was taught earlier. How you arrange the physical setup of the group can influence instruction. You must be able to easily see and hear students' responses. When you begin teaching Reading Mastery 3, you will also need to preview lessons in order to be familiar with the material you will teach. After you have taught the program for a while, you will start to recognize which of your students may make errors, which words are difficult for them, and the type of errors that students are likely to make. To encourage correct responding the first time through an exercise, you can provide more than a second or two of thinking time on newly introduced words or previous error words. After students correctly read those words, you may confirm by repeating their responses. In addition to pausing longer on some words and confirming correct responses, you may present quick pre-corrections or cues before you have students try to read difficult words. Pre-correction procedures increase accuracy by focusing students' attention on critical features of the words before you signal them to respond. I'll demonstrate using pre-corrections and how to use techniques to motivate students to attend carefully and work hard to read the words correctly the first time through the whole list. Everybody touch column 2. All the words in column 2 are made up of 2 shorter words. Touch under the first word. Don't forget to answer crisply. What word?
Peanuts.
Peanuts. What word?
Peanuts.
Good. Let's try that column again, and don't forget to answer crisply. What word?
Peanuts.
Next word. What word?
However.
Good. Nice answering fast. Next word. Be careful on this one. What word?
Blindfold.
Blindfold. Next word. What word?
Playground.
Playground. You got them all right that time. That was very good. Let's go to column 3. Touch under the first word. Careful on the ending on this one. What word?
Quietly.
Quietly. Next word. What word?
Greeks.
Next word. What word?
Sod.
Next word. What word?
Post.
And next word. Careful on the ending again. What word?
Hammered.
Hammered. You got all those endings, and I like the way you were answering on signal.
Good reading. Let's do column 7, everybody. Vocabulary words. First we'll read them, and then we'll talk about what they mean. Put your finger under the first word. What word?
Fail.
Number 2. What word?
Gift.
Number 3. What word?
Sense.
Number 4. What word?
Peak.
That's right. Okay, everybody, when we're talking about the vocabulary words, touch under the words that we talk about. Touch under number 1. That word is failed. The opposite of succeeding is failing. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Here's how you say the opposite. She failed in school. Your turn. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Say the opposite. Get ready?
She failed in school.
Perfecto. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded at her job. Say the opposite. Get ready?
She failed at her job.
Absolutely right. Touch part 2 or touch word 2. That word is gift. A gift is another way of saying a present. Touch under 3. Good touching, everybody. Word 3 is sense. Another word for a feeling is a sense. Here's another way of saying the feeling of sight, the sense of sight. Another way of saying the feeling of touch is the sense of touch. Your turn. What's another way of saying the feeling of smell? Get ready?
The sense of smell.
Right on. What's another way of saying the feeling of taste? Get ready.
The sense of taste.
Right on. Word 4, everybody touch. Word 4 is peek. When you sneak a quick look at something, you peek. Here's another way of saying she sneaked a quick look at her mother. She peeked at her mother. Your turn. What's another way of saying she sneaked a quick look at her mother? Get ready?
She peeked at her mother.
What's another way of saying she sneaked a quick look through the window? Get ready.
She peeked through the window.
Yes. Now I'm going to call on each one of you to read a column.
Okay, now that you've practiced the word attack up till this point, you'll notice we've made it all the way to column 7, which are our vocabulary words. We're going to introduce the students to vocabulary words that are going to be in their reading stories. And this is a very good vocabulary program because you as the teacher will introduce these words to students over a series of a couple of days. You will not simply give the students a definition and expect them to remember the words. The words will be reviewed the next day, the students will use the words in sentences, and then eventually those words will show up in the story reading and students will be asked questions again that have to do with the meaning of those words.
Right, and additionally, the students will have to remember those words for some of the work activities that will be coming up. So it's really important in this case to follow the format of the program because it's very carefully introduced in sequence. Let's take a look at what the vocabulary words exercise looks like. We are now on page 21 of the teacher's guide, and we're at the top of exercise 4 for the vocabulary words. Let's start off with just a model. Kathy's going to be the student and I'm going to be the teacher, and our first time through we will not have any errors, and just follow along as I work through the format. Everybody, touch column 7. First you're going to read the words in the column, then we'll talk about what they mean. Touch under the first word. What word?
Fail.
Next word. What word?
Gift.
Next word. What word?
Sense.
Next word. What word? Peak. Good, reading those words. Now let's talk about what those words mean. Word 1 is fail. The opposite of succeeding is failing. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Here's how to say the opposite. She failed in school. Your turn. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Say the opposite. Get ready?
She failed in school.
That's right, she failed in school. Good for you. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded at her job. Say the opposite. Get ready?
She failed at her job.
Excellent. Now what I'd like you to do is to join me teaching at task C. Everybody get ready. Word 2 is gift. A gift is another way of saying a present. Word 3 is sense. Another word for a feeling is a sense. Here's another way of saying the feeling of sight. The sense of sight. Another way of saying the feeling of touch is the sense of touch. Your turn. What's another way of saying the feeling of smell? Get ready?
The sense of smell.
Right. What's another way of saying the feeling of taste? Get ready?
The sense of taste.
Excellent. Now we're moving on to task E. Word 4 is peek. When you sneak a quick look at something, you peek. Here's another way of saying she sneaked a quick look at her mother. She peeked at her mother. Your turn. What's another way of saying she sneaked a quick look at her mother? Get ready?
She peeked at her mother.
That's right, she peeked at her mother. What's another way of saying she sneaked a quick look through the window? Get ready?
She peeked through the window.
She peeked through the window. Good using that word. That's what the exercise looks like for vocabulary. I had to follow each of the words that were for me in the script very carefully.
This would be a good time for you to practice the vocabulary format. So stop the videotape now, start at exercise 4, task A, follow the teacher's script all the way to the bottom.
Now let's talk about what happens if students make mistakes. That will happen in vocabulary just as it can happen in decoding and in story reading. What we'll do is take a close look at task B, in which we're asking the students to talk about the word succeeding or failed, and the opposite is succeeding. What I'd like to do is to demonstrate for you what's going to take place. I'm basically following the part-forming paradigm. Watch as I teach Kathy, and she's going to be making an error in this particular exercise, and you can find the opposite. Now let's talk about what those words mean. Word 1 is failed. The opposite of succeeding is failing. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Here's another way. Here's how to say the opposite. She failed in school. Your turn. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Say the opposite. Get ready?
She didn't succeed in school.
She failed in school. Say that sentence.
She failed in school.
Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Say the opposite. Get ready?
She failed in school.
Excellent. Let's move on to the next sentence. Listen. She succeeded at her job. Say the opposite. Get ready?
She failed at her job.
Good, you got it that time. Nice work. The corrections here are really telling the answer and repeating the task. And the part in this case is going to each of the individual numerals in task B. Now what I'd like you to do is task B with me. I want you to take the role of the teacher. Kathy will continue to be our student, and we'll do the correction for the error that she made. You need to follow the script very carefully and get ready to make that correction using the part from me paradigm. Here we go. Now, let's talk about what those words mean. Word 1 is fail. The opposite of succeeding is failing. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Here's how to say the opposite. She failed in school. Your turn. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Say the opposite. Get ready.
She didn't succeed in
She
school.
failed in school. Say that.
She failed in school.
Good. Your turn. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded in school. Say the opposite. Get ready.
She failed in school.
Good. Listen to this sentence. She succeeded at her job. Say the opposite. Get ready.
She failed at her job.
She failed at her job. Nice work. All right. What I'd like you to do now is to join me moving on into task C and then on to task D. Kathy will make an error somewhere, and we need to all be prepared to correct her using the part from me paradigm. Remember that when you go back up to the top of the part, it's the numeral within the task that we'll be dealing with. Let's start at task C, which is word 2 for the students. Everybody ready? Good. Word 2 is gift. A gift is another way of saying a present. Word 3 is sense. Another way for a feeling is a sense. Here's another way of saying the feeling of sight. The sense of sight. Another way of saying the feeling of touch is the sense of touch. Your turn. What's another way of saying the feeling of smell? Get ready?
The sense of smell.
Excellent. What's another way of saying the feeling of taste? Get ready?
The taste.
The sense of taste. What's another way of saying the feeling of taste?
The sense of taste.
You got it. Let's go on to part word 4. Word 4 is peek. When you sneak a quick look at something, you peek. Here's another way of saying she sneaked a quick look at her mother. She peeked at her mother. Your turn. What's another way of saying she sneaked a quick look at her mother? Get ready?
She peeked at her mother.
You got it. What's another way of saying she sneaked a quick look through the window? Get ready?
She peeked through the window.
She peeked through the window. Good work on the vocabulary. This would be a great time to stop and practice all of exercise 4. There's a lot of teacher wording. You want to be very familiar with it before you sit down and work with your students, and be prepared to correct at any point. So now you've had a chance to see what the vocabulary section of every lesson in Word Attack is like, and you've seen what the corrections need to look like. But you may have some questions. So Kathy and I have kind of put together some of the common questions that we've seen as we work with people in Reading Mastery 3 and the vocabulary section.
One of the things that I noticed that people seem to want to do is they want to define the words themselves to the children, or they want to call on children to give the definitions, thinking, well, if the kids know, wouldn't that be better to do?
Would be saving them time if they wouldn't have to follow the script. And one of the things that we want to make sure of is that the students understand the words as the words are going to be used in the program, and that's one of the reasons to follow the script so closely.
Also, because you want to involve all the students in your class in answering and learning to use those words. If you call on an individual student, there's a lot of other students in the class that will not practice with those words or might not be listening to the student giving the answer.
And it's real important that all the students are getting the practice. These words are going to be seen a number of times before they show up in the story and in the comprehension exercises that the students need to do at the end of the lesson.
Another thing that we did is when we practiced the errors that the students might make in the vocabulary tasks, one of the things that students do sometimes is they use the word in the sentence correctly, but the sentence doesn't come out right. So they might include some extra words that shouldn't be there, or maybe in changing the sentence, the noun-verb agreement kind of disappears. In which case,
the part from your paradigm still holds. The first thing we want to do is to tell the students the correct answer. So we'll just model the sentence as it needs to be stated for the students, and have the students state it correctly, and then follow through in the regular part from your procedure.
One of the things, again, that we want to emphasize is how important it is to follow the script, because that's going to help guide the way in which you introduce the definitions to the children, the way in which they practice them. And because these words are going to show up 7 or 8 times within the program following the introduction of the word, you're going to want to make sure that you have introduced the correct definition and the kids have had lots of practice on those words before they need to be on their own interacting and understanding those words in the context of the stories.
One of the things that we haven't mentioned about the Reading Mastery 3 program is that all of the formats and all of the stories that we have in the program have been field tested. In other words, children have practiced these, and we've changed and worked the formats to be the most efficient that they can. So we know that these are going to work well with children, and that's why we recommend and want you carefully to follow the formats as they're written.